My name is Spood, and I'm here to say I love to recap in a major way.
Gotta elevate the bit.
A division full of grit.
I hope you like this skit.
Let's get into it.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it.
Welcome back to the Double Dip Draft. This is the Season 6 Week 2 Diamond Division recap. I am your host, Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers. Joining me again,
the coach of the Ne'er-do-well Nido team. I go by many names, most of which are just Kevin.
Yeah, that's true. Apologize for Kevin's slightly lower mic quality this evening, or I guess this morning. It's 8:30 on the dot, actually. He is not abroad, but he's house sitting, so stuck on the mobile setup like old times.
But the grind never stops.
That's right, the grind never stops. And I'll tell you what, man, Diamond Division this week looked a little interesting, looked a little hot. We got 4 matches to break down for you, and I think without further ado, why don't we jump right on into match number 1. We've got Cabral of the H, Slinging Aegislashers versus Aelin of the Primarina-H. Cabral coming off of a win week 1 against... who did he play week 1?
He played... Didn't he play Skittles last week?
No, Bananas played Skittles.
Then I could not tell you, my friend.
Damn. Well, oh, he played Black Captain? Maybe? Or did he not? Hold on, I'm gonna go double check that. Well, but you introduce it while I'm doing that. You should talk about the team preview or something.
Alright, I will talk about team preview. So, on the side of the Primarina-H, we got, obviously, like, the Homestead Primarina, Garchomp.
He fought Milo. Week 1.
Okay,
Canadian.
Yeah, no, actually, no, I think I remember that now.
Yep.
Okay, so Primarina, which, just surface level could cause a lot of problems for Cabral's draft. It answers Gudra pretty handily. I wouldn't say it answers Weezing but if it's not Sludge Bomb, if it's like Strange Steam, Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split, Defog, could potentially check it there.
Yep.
Checks Torkoal. If it's not like, even if it's like Solar Beam, it'll do like maybe 35 max.
Yeah.
Checks Piloswine, and the only like hard counters to it I'd say are like offensive Sludge Bomb, Venusaur, and then obviously Shedinja if it's not packing any way to hit it. Garchomp's scary as always.
Yeah. I don't think that Primarina actually gets any moves that hit it super effectively, so Primarina would have to run something like Toxic or whatever to just kind of get that damage in, and then you kind of have to adjust the set to account for not having that 4th move, especially given what we see the Primarina ends up being. It just did not have space for that move.
Right.
Garchomp is really scary though, for real.
I can see Malamar being a boon. It's got that contrary superpower for Piloswine and for Gudra. It's got Psycho Cut if it wants to try and hit Venusaur and Galarian Weezing.
Breloom, obviously, Spore's not as free here as it generally is because you've got Venusaur to switch in. Actually, just in general, Venusaur is a great answer to Breloom, now that I think about it defensively. Just because it resists fighting, can't be Spored. But even at the same time, same deal as with Primarina. Breloom doesn't love having to lose a move to cover for Shedinja, and so it's either not going to do that, or it's going to have to basically switch out against Shedinja every time.
Yep, and then lastly, Togekiss. I mean, even if Togekiss isn't exactly a powerhouse, it can still do Serene Grace Cheese, so always need to prepare for it in some way. I think we figure out later that the Gudra is AV, which is actually a very decent check to Togekiss.
Yeah, counterintuitively, because obviously you'd think Dragon loses to Fairy, but turns out in this specific instance, that is not the case. But without further ado, let's have a look, man. Yeah. Let's see how it went.
So big turn 1, Aelin got the lead perfect.
Yep. But then Cabral, smartly switches in for the Spore. Aelin either bluffing or just saying like, okay, I'm gonna just see what happens, either a bluff or a scout with the Swords Dance. But ultimately caves and, I think basically proves to Cabral that there's nothing that she can hit it with.
Right, so now Shedinja can always just come in and be the check to Breloom. It's
Yep.
already asleep, so nothing else on his team has to worry about it. It's nice that he didn't let Piloswine go to sleep, because obviously that comes in 4 useful later with Earthquake and Ice Shard.
Yeah. The thing about Garchomp is that it really struggles versus Piloswine. Earthquake with Eviolite is still like just not doing that much damage without being set up first. Obviously, it has thick fat, so Piloswine's not that scared of like Fire Fang, and it's also not very scared of like Dragon Stab either.
Right.
Could have been scary. Aelin decides to risk it all for the Iron Head flinch, and unfortunately does not get it. And
Yeah,
that gets
but at the same
Cabral
time, I don't really see like an amazing switch in. You could go into Primarina, I guess, but everything else on the team either risks a burn from like Will-O-Wisp or something, or just get Strange Steam. So might as well keep in the Garchomp, since Cabral still has answers to it anyway. So why not get as much mileage out of that thing as you might think?
Lycanroc's in here. Stone Edge actually does more than I would have expected against Piloswine.
If this thing was running close combat, that could have been useful.
Yo, who needs it, bro? We got counter. That's sick.
And then I think, Venusaur is like almost in a position to just completely go bananas.
Yeah.
Malmar just needs a little bit of damage.
Yep.
Goes all in
ridiculous. Yeah, he really didn't need to do that. If he was worried about Sun running out, he still had Torkoal in the back. And it's just like so easy. I mean, imagine Psycho Cut's a high crit chance move too. So like, imagine that it just crit the Venusaur right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been looking at a slightly different game. And Aelin at this point, I think, has acclimated for the most part. She's threatening Stone Edge on Shedinja really fast. She's taking care of the Torkoal. Counter did end up getting rid of Piloswine. Unfortunately, no Accelerock, which would have been really nice.
Oh no, Lycanroc Midnight doesn't get Accelerock.
Yep. No, that's what I mean. Like, unfortunate for this specific Pokemon.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then
But then Venusaur is just in position to beat the rest of the game.
For the most part. Although I will say, kind of funny here, Primarina just immediately takes a nap, which was smart from Aelin. The only way to do this would be to, she reveals basically that she's, Rest Talk Primarina, and then the only way to really deal with this is to, Sleep Talk into a move that hits it hard enough to kill. Unfortunately, she doesn't have, Ice Beam, apparently, and she's probably running, Sleep, Rest Talk, Dual Stab. But in any case, at this point, she didn't have any moves to hit Shedinja, so even if she did manage to kill this, it would only be a differential issue for as long as it takes Cabral to realize that Shedinja is immune to all damage. At which point, he, just ties it up. Although it might take a little bit, given the nature of Rest Talk,
True. But I mean, when it comes down to situations where you think you have lost the game, just, I don't want to say that she wasn't, but definitely fishing for differential could make the last part of the season, because maybe you come out and you upset that 5th seed or whatever.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? And maybe securing that kill on the Venusaur then and there would probably work out a little better in your favor. But that's all hypothetical, clairvoyancy type.
Draft very quickly devolves into a lot of what if scenarios that just branch out, what if I got this hit, or what if I chose this move, or what if I made this double, we only ever live in the world we live in, right? And then, it's interesting because if you look at Cabral's Pokemon, Venusaur was really low, Weezing was really low, obviously Shedinja dies in one shot. Goodra was still 74% with AV, so it could have posed an issue, but depending on the moveset, it might have actually lost to Rest Talk Primarina anyway. So
right, because a Solar Beam coming off of a Venusaur did 90%, then a non-stab Sludge Bomb or Thunderbolt from Goodra was maybe doing maybe 40-ish%.
Yeah,
at the very most.
And it's
so that's
AV, so it's probably not even running special attack investment,
Right.
So I don't know, but still, great showing from Cabral. He's showing some competency with the Weather team. The Sun core especially seems to be favored to the Rain core that he has with Urshifu Pelipper. But even without his tier 1, he's been making this look pretty good.
I completely agree with you, and I do think it's worth noting that Aelin, for her inaugural season, for all the quirks that we talked about her draft having, I think she has a pretty good showing so far.
I agree. She hasn't really had easy matches, to be sure. because her first week I think was Claire, right? It was Claire, and then it was Cabral, and then next week is Scoots. So she's really running the gauntlet right now versus players that are like really well established and really good, and she's still putting up a very respectable fight every week. And I don't know, I think I keep my eye on her. I think if she gets down to like sort of the Skittles, Black Captain, like Milo area, she's going to start looking a lot more threatening.
Yeah. But I think that's about all we have to say on that. I think we can go ahead and move on to our next match, which is going to be probably the highlight, I'd say, of this week. It's the two titans of that division, Claire and Scoots.
Oh yeah, I mean, what you got to say? What teams they're on?
Yeah, let me do this more formally. Audible throat clear. We have Claire, coach of the Maryland Manectrics, and Scoots, coach of the Dumblespoods Army.
We love that. This is another, if you watched week 1 of Pearl Division, you'll be maybe thinking to yourself, like, man, why are the top 2 of the divisions fighting so early? Aurora versus Vincent was week 1 there. Here we have Scoots Claire week 2, and they are by seed. Scoots is number 1 in the division, Claire's number 2 in the division. It's a very interesting match, I think. It's something that's like really hype, same kind of dichotomy as before, where Claire and Scoots by seed are not expected to lose to anybody else. Scoots in general is not expected to lose, again, by seed, any of his matches, whereas Claire is only really expected to lose this one. So in a way, this is more stressful for Scoots than Claire, because he has something to lose, whereas I think Claire is just like, okay, well, if I lose to Scoots, then I'm kind of back at square one, which is fine, right? Like, I'm not being knocked down into, like, dangerous territory. Of all the matches in the division, the one against Scoots would be the one to lose. So, conversely, Scoots, I think, would probably like to hold on to this because, when you're playing at the top level of each division, you're really playing for the bye past playoffs round 1. You really want that number 1 slot. And so if Scoots drops to Claire here, Claire might actually snipe that number 1 spot.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you completely. And just based off the team preview, I think that they're pretty much dead even in terms of matchup spread. Like, Garchomp, gets to Earthquake and or like Firefang, Quillfish, Tangela, Firefang, Buzzwole, even if it really won't do that much damage, but it's faster than Indeed female, so threatening the psychic terrain right away is always going to be something useful. Mm-hmm. Conversely, Buzzwole does a lot of work against this division. Against the division, but against this particular match, like Ice Punch, if it's defensive, defensive invested, it could Ice Punch the Garchomp, it could Leech Life the Metang and the Melodic and the Snake. Whose name escapes me at the moment.
No, I mean, just based on team preview, it looks like it's almost dead even. Yeah, it looks tough. I mean, Mega Garchomp is just very overwhelmingly threatening. It's got the coverage to deal with like Mega Diancie, and it's not that hard to get faster than it because it only needs 1 scale shot. And obviously, Claire has, Buzzwole is pretty threatening to like everything but like Florges and maybe Electros. And then I think just all around it's looking like an interesting match, man. Let's let the match speak for itself, though. We'll go ahead and jump into turn 1. I actually love when you get the lead and then both players switch out. I always think that's funny. Like, let's try this again.
So, Raw Mystical Fire, maybe expecting like the AV Electros to come in or something else, but Claire quickly fixes it up with a Diamond Storm afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate
any damage on the floor just would have proved useful because it's really the only answer.
To me, Mystical Fire is like a good mid ground. It punishes Metang, but it also makes Florges do less damage.
Right. Unfortunately, Leech Seed missed because we can now see that this Garchomp is Substitute, so getting the passive damage on that right away would have made things much easier in terms of having to break the sub. It's a little bit of return justice there with missing the Fire Blast, but I feel like missing the Fire Blast is overall less impactful than not getting the Leech Seed. Yeah.
And she's just desperately trying to knock this sub, trying to get damage on it, trying to sack the Tangela. Although that would have been really scary had the Garchomp actually been like a setup set with like Swords Dance or something. Once he realized that that knock was never going to break the sub, he could just start clicking buttons. And if that were the case, Claire actually, I don't know, would have been in a bad position, we'll say.
And had the leaf seed been set, there's a pretty good chance the scale shot would have killed here.
Yeah.
And Garchomp would have been just removed from the table altogether and wouldn't have got this Fire Blast on this Buzzwole. But obviously, Aegislashers comes back. It's well within range of it to kill. Get a little HP back, but overall comes out positive in the turn.
Yep.
Gets out of there probably to try and avoid a potential Scald Burn, which, does make sense to me. The Fly, I know it looks like a weird choice, in the moment, but that was one of the only answers to Superior, which overall, if Buzzwole was dead, gave this draft a lot of trouble. But since Buzzwole's not dead, it comes in, eats it, and Leech Flies all the way back up.
I'll tell you what, that Buzzwole, that's an Assault Vest Buzzwole.
It is indeed. And now, gets a free close combat, gets to take another soul, and then here's a weird, 50-50 here. Or not here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because, Scoots is like, okay, your minus defense, maybe Bullet Punch will get me somewhere. But at this point, Buzzwole kind of sleeps.
Right, and unfortunately, Claire does do the switch out here, maybe potentially fearing that it's Speedy Florges. And ultimately, I think that is the play that, spoilers, does cost Claire the match here.
Yeah, Claire has options for stuff. But she plays just so fast and loose with it. So we're aware of this from a team building perspective, which, not necessarily something that other people would know, but we're aware that Indeedee has Healing Wish. And we're also aware that Buzzwole does threaten Florges with its Poison Jab. And with that knowledge, we can look at the role that does eventually when Buzzwole comes back out and hits, the move on Florges. The thing is, basically, at this point, she could have still salvaged this by Healing Wishing into Buzzwole.
Or even just clicking Expanding Force and getting necessary damage, because I don't think the Melodic would have actually taken the Expanding Force well at all. And this is Scarf and Indeedee, so it didn't actually outspeed. So just getting a little bit of damage and outright killing the Melodic would have made Buzzwole just come in and not clean sweep, but
would have cleaned it up though.
Yeah, because we can see Poison Jab does over half. So had the plus
it does 49. That would have been barely under half.
Right, but the +2 would have secured the kill, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So if you bump back to when the Buzzwole was all set up here, it would have done, basically 100%. Would have been in the ballpark 98 to 100%, depending on the roll, and it would have been more than enough to kill, and it would have been faster. So had she stayed in and just Poison Jabbed on this, Claire would have won. But unfortunately, again, we live in the universe that we live in, and that is the universe whereupon Claire fell to Scoots 0-2.
So overall, a really close showing, just a little bit of spaghetti there towards the end. But also, you're playing the first seed of the division, so if ever there was a match to lose, I mean, it's best that it's this one, and not potentially, maybe someone a little lower on the totem pole that could, really mix up the divisions draft. If this is the match that you lose, I still say you've done a pretty decent job.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like she got it's not like she got totally swept. It's not like she buried her differential or anything. It was an 0-2, 2 Scoots. She still got a win. She hasn't been upset by anybody. But Scoots, I'll tell you what, he is laughing all the way to the bank with that one. I think Scoots has got to be psyched. Basically, just coming back from the brink of death and persevering as the preferred player for another day. But let's talk about something else. So we've been talking about Claire and Scoots kind of battling for the top spot of the division, but actually neither of them have held it thus far this year. That distinguished honor goes instead to our friend Bananas, coach of the Don't Drop That Dedennes. I can't do it. Don't drop that Dedennes. We got Bananas versus Milo Mega of the Canadian Cottonees. They had to play Cabral round 1, which did not go amazingly well. Bananas, however, got the exact opposite treatment and got a 6-0 on Skittles' Mono Water team. And ever since then has kind of just been booling at the top of the division. I mean, you can't do much better for week 1 than 1-0 plus 6. So,
right.
To go into this match, I feel like Bananas got off, because both of them, are brand new players to Double Dip. But I think based on the results of the first match, and obviously to be fair, Milo fighting a much higher seeded opponent than Skittles, but Bananas really showed his stuff week 1, and Milo unfortunately has a bit left to prove.
So I think that is a pretty decent segue into starting the matchup.
Then let's run it.
So overall, you can see the Cobalion immediately comes out on top here with the faster taunt. EXE generally a support Pokemon, so taunt there is really kind of a no-brainer if it's an option that you have. It prevents the screens, presumably it also stops the Stealth Rock.
Yep. It's kind of unfortunate for Milo. The Yuxie got taunted both games now, and it gets aggressively taunted, spoilers. But smart pursuit, Volt switching into Skuntank and then just trapping and killing the Indeedee is smart. Bananas also tries to get an explosion off there, gets it, but it doesn't kill, and then he goes into Lopunny and then realizes that he's in Psychic Terrain and does not want to risk getting killed by this thing since he can't fake it out, so then doubles back out. So a little bit of spaghetti from Bananas, but he immediately recognizes it and cleans up.
Right, and that awareness is really what makes, what separates this sort of maybe a little more of a novice, maybe a little lucky player versus someone who, has a much better understanding of how the bones of their own draft. Being able to recognize that mistake and then play around it, knowing that it happened, is just a good trait to have for any player, whether you're in draft league or any real, competitive scene.
Bananas is very aware. He's also aware.
No one's going to play perfectly every single time, but Dragon Dance, Dragonite would have also been a huge problem.
Yep. Now, Banana shows a lot of awareness. He shuts down the Dragon Dance. He immediately positioned so that the Volcarona wouldn't be an issue, and did not also sack his Mega Lopunny. So, really, Bananas is just doing basically everything right, and Milo has kind of been forced onto the back foot. They're playing with rocks up. They're having a hard time keeping their screens up. They keep getting taunted on all of their setup attempts. But God forbid they are trying. There goes the rocks. They get the knock. They are positioning decently well with terrain. Genuinely, I think Milo has been putting up a solid showing.
Right. For as seemingly lopsided as this game, sort of seems on the outset, I think it's actually still quite an even match.
Yep. Milo
and calls out the taunt there with the Fire Punch, gets the maintain multi-scale going into the rest of the battle.
Yep. I would have probably stacked Volcarona here just because I don't think you're getting it set up anymore. But it's fine. This would have been nice to have 4 Rotom depending on the set. Also, this is where a lack of awareness really comes to bite you. I think Milo just wasn't aware of Triple Axle. Otherwise, no shot that you would have come in there. But there's not really much of a choice at this point anyway,
Right, and obviously, Lopunny shows Facade, so even fishing for the Flame Body Burn might not have worked out in their favor. Maybe the Triple Axle wouldn't have done as much damage, and then maybe you could have hit something with a dual Wing Beat.
Oh, I'm losing you a little bit. You still there? Oh shit, there goes my co-host. Well, I'll finish his statement. Basically, what he was trying to say...
Sort of.
He's back? Cam?
I'm back at it.
Okay, there you go.
Don't call it a comeback. I never left.
Marco.
Polo.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well, we'll have to work with some delay. That's fine. Basically, what he was trying to say was that Volcarona could have Flame Body, probably did have Flame Body, which could have been a way to threaten fake outs and returns and contact moves from Mega Lopunny, especially if Milo had predicted the Triple Axle, they could have gone into Volcarona and then had multiple chances to proc the Flame Body. But Bananas was also prepped for that and was rocking Facade.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
There we go. Well, I'd love to hear you talk, so why don't you introduce for us the 4th match of our division?
All right, so we have Ray High, better known as Black Captain, also known as the coach of the Martian Mantines, versus Skittles the Butt, rather, coach of the Crystal Cresselias. I believe that they were the Nevada 9 Pits last season.
That's correct.
Here we are now. A little
sorry
bit of
we
DDL
forgot
lore
your
facts
name.
for you.
Yeah, we definitely beefed it last week on remembering what Skittles' old team name was. It was the Nevada Ninetales. So, Crystal Cresselias versus the Martian Mantines. Skittles had a very ugly week 1 versus Bananas, who kind of just obliterated his team with Frostmoth. And I believe Black Captain was taking notes. I think Black Captain's week 1 was Scoots, if I'm not mistaken. Which just went about as well as you'd expect, a player versus Scoots to go. Actually, as I recall it, Black Captain did fairly solid against Scoots. I think he got 4-0'd, but it was like a...
Yeah,
like
he whipped out the Balls of Steel Tailwind Scarfladios.
That's right.
I believe.
He bluffed the Scarfladios on Tailwind, and Scoots bit, he left. But now he's in front of Skittles, and so Skittles Skittles week 1, Bananas kind of a wild card at that point. Like, okay, I don't know how I will perform because I don't have any matches to watch. I don't have any familiarity with his playstyle. Black Captain, a little more familiar, maybe a little more beatable than some of the other players in the division, just based on his seed. So Skittles, I think, coming into this one, just like, all right, I'm going to steel myself, and I'm going to see if I can't make this mono water draft work. Black Captain, conversely, is, I think, really jonesing for a win. Wants to kind of see if he can make up that differential loss from week 1. And just in general, I think, versus a mono water team, you're going to ultimately have a little more confidence, or maybe a tighter game plan. Like, I would assume, for example, that Arctivish is water absorbed.
Right, and that Latios probably has Energy Ball.
Yeah.
That Gallade probably had Leaf Blade.
And Galvantula probably has Energy Ball, and Masquerain probably has Giga Drain. It's pretty... It's, the strategy... The strategy is go fast, hit hard with my funny grass and electric type moves. So, let's have a look and see how Black Captain versus Skittles went. Because at least if you're Skittles, you can prep for the expected, grass or electric type moves. But then if you don't, you'll die turn 1 to a Giga Drain.
Which, again, I love Skittles' draft from a culture perspective, but it's also not very difficult to prep against mono water. But, he knows that. He's going into the draft to have fun, and I think he's a pillar in this community.
He's a pillar. I love Skittles. I have fear doing these recaps sometimes, because it's just like, man, I really hope I'm not being mean to Skittles. I love that guy. But yeah, it's the actual quality of the match here is a little rough. Although, I think ultimately getting that turn 1 Toxic on Masquerain was smart. That's kind of what we were maybe expecting out of Frostmoth last week, was the Quiver Dance Giga Drain. But of course, there's another Giga Drain.
Yeah, and there goes the Sash. And unfortunately, all of the physical attacker, or all the special attackers, being Politoed, Omastar, and Seismitoad, are all now already removed from the field. So unfortunately, Skarmory now packs the Iron Defense because his game plan is obviously to remove all the special stuff with Giga Drain. And unfortunately, the game is kind of, over as soon as it's begun. Iron Defense Skarmory here just gets to sit.
Yeah, Seismitoad and maybe a Perish Trap Politoed was really the only way to do this, or to kill this Pokemon. And unfortunately, Skittles was just like, oh, hey, fuck it, we ball. Let's see what happens. I have to kind of sack shit in front of Masquerain. I think maybe he could have preserved a little bit by, forcing a first impression if he was running it on Golisopod. But, I don't know, man. It's easy to just be like, oh, do this, forehead. I've seen the match. I know how it ends. Also, I love PodChamp. It is running first impression.
Yep. PodChamp is definitely an amazing glass pod nickname.
Yeah, PodChamp, very good. But Black Captain, keeps his head in the game. Actually does bring his differential positive with the 5-0 against Skittles. And honestly, makes it look pretty solid. I mean, he cooked up a game plan and executed it to basically perfection.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add in terms of commentary. It's just, it was a well-played game.
Yeah.
He had answers, and all of the answers answered all the questions.
Yeah. This is literally a gym leader battle, right? This is you pull up with your team of, diverse Pokemon that you caught from all across the land, and Skittles is like, haha, my water Pokemon will submerge you. Let's go. And it's just you just gotta not lose the gym leader, bro. That's what it's all about.
I think Skittles being designated the Double Dip gym leader.
That's hype. Yeah.
I think that's great.
So, Black Captain, solid showing. You love to see it. Skittles, unfortunately, maybe setting, hopefully not a precedent for the remainder of the season, but I think he might want to run more Sashes and or Rindo Berries in the future.
But
so
obviously, we have the hindsight, and he can watch these recaps, and then he'll know.
That's totally true. Let me go grab, actually, I need to get the Week 2 stat distribution, because we did not look at the ranking. So, can you stall for a moment while I do that?
Sure. Toxapex use Recover. Toxapex use
Okay. There you go. Yeah. Toxapex use Scald. Toxapex switches into Lamungus. Okay.
Blissey comes in, soft boiled up.
Teleport, into fucking whatever. So, in the Diamond Division, I'm going to cover the top 4, you cover the bottom 4. You ready?
Diamond Division, let's do it.
Alright, lightning quick. We have got, in first place, the Don't Drop That Dedennes. Shout out to Bananas with a 2-0 and +10, an eye-watering +10 for Week 2. In second place, we have got the Slinging Aegislashers coached by Cabral at 2-0 and +9, also very high diff. In third place, we've got Scoots of the Dumblespoods Army at 2-0 and +6. And in fourth is the Maryland Manectrics hosted by Claire at a 1-1 and +1.
Beginning the back half at 1-1 and +1, actually.
Oh, wait, that's a tie!
Wow. Martian Mantines and Claire are actually neck and neck at the end of the second week.
They're also alphabetically insanely close, I've just realized. They both start with MAR. It's not ordered alphabetically, it's ordered by sign-up date, so it's, kind of arbitrary, but it's just funny.
So there's a future here where Claire is in the red and Black Captain is in the green.
Yeah, absolutely.
But following Black Captain, we have the Primarina-H at 0-2 -7, the Canadian Cottonees Milo Mega 0-2 -9, and then Skittles bringing up the rear 0-2 -11.
Hey, who coaches the Primarina-H?
Aylin.
There you go. See, you gotta say her name. Put some respect on her name. Let's go, Aylin. This is the makeup of the division right now. I think it is relatively... I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I were to make a hard call as to who advances into playoffs, I would say probably those in the green right now will, for the most part, if not entirely, stay in the green for the rest of the season.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. This division is, as discussed in our analysis, this division is quite lopsided with with obviously Claire and Scoots. Any division that they're going to be in, they're going to be the 1 and the 2 spot. They're just going to change which is which. Cabral, obviously seasoned at this point. I think this is his 3rd season, so him being in the green against it, 2 fresh faces in the division, and then like a mono water. Like I do think it's a pretty safe spot for Cabral.
3 fresh faces.
3 fresh faces.
Bananas, Aylin, and Milo are all new.
Oh, right. I forget that Bananas is not a staple so far, considering he is 2-0 +10.
But Bananas did pull up and just immediately start murking people.
That is true.
We'll see how the thing is, Bananas has a very interesting kind of progression in his division where it gets, I think, slowly more difficult. Or at least the difficulty for him, he's gotten you got an early Skittles, you got another early new player in Milo. I believe his last 2 weeks are Scoots and Claire. So I think he's probably going to keep floating around the top, if not at the top, for the rest of the division if he maintains his not losing to other new players.
Yep, I think you're right.
But at the same time, Claire and Scoots have had maybe a couple of tougher matches because they had to fight each other at the beginning, and Cabral has also enjoyed a little bit of luxury on the free ride. But hey, next week you get to see Cabral versus Bananas, so that's going to be exciting.
And that is going to be very exciting.
True. But I think in general, that will do it for the Diamond Division. Definitely make sure you check out the companion videos to this one. We have got myself and Cabral covering the Pearl Division, and it's going to be Cabral and most likely Aurora covering Platinum. Cool. I was waiting for you to chip in something, but you got a little clammy. That's all right. Well, thank you for joining us for
No,
Double
sorry,
Dip Drafts.
Your voice didn't dissipate.
Oh, no. All right, that's fine.
So the struggles of mobile are real, but again, the grind never stops.
True. The mobile struggle is real, but the grind never stops. Well, thank you for joining me today, Cam. I do appreciate it. As always, I'm Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers. Definitely check out our companion videos to this one, and come back next week for more Diamond Division. Can you sign us off?
Yes. I don't really have a cute outro, but just thank you for watching our video. We appreciate it, and hope that you'll tag along for the rest of it.
Yeah, promise next week will be a little less cuts. It'll be okay.
Yeah, don't worry. I returned to my actual microphone next week, so don't worry.
Boom. There we go. All right, see you all next week. Thank you, and goodbye.